Hello everyone, it's your boy Rage, and in this video, I'll be talking about how strong Unohana is in the story of Bleach. Before I get into the video, if you guys could please leave a like, it would be very appreciated. Subscribe to me if you like Bleach. By the time I make this video, I'm at 100 subs or past it. I want to thank you guys very much. I'm so excited to hit the triple digits, and it's all thanks to you guys, so thank you. Unohana throughout the story of Bleach has always been a weird character in the story, at least before her origins is revealed in the Thousand-Year Blood War. What I mean by this is, her whole persona is being a motherly and caring type of character, but she would also have instances where she would terrify characters in the story with just a glance, even scaring Ichigo at one point. Even the data books say that she's the scariest captain when she's mad. You could say this is some foreshadowing to how she was back 1,000 years ago before she became the captain of the 4th Division. Unohana throughout the story has always played a support role, even going to Wekamundo to help fallen friends of Ichigo and Soul Reapers. She's shown to always avoid conflict. Unohana so far hasn't shown anything impressive. In fact, she has this statement basically putting herself below characters like Bankai Ichigo or Byakuya during their battle, along with other characters fighting throughout the Soul Society, or Serete I should say. We also get a few databook statements like the one I mentioned before, where it stated she's the scariest captain when she's mad, but this doesn't really equate to power. Someone can find Szayelaporro to be the scariest looking out of all the Espada, but it doesn't mean he's the strongest. Another databook statement we get is that she's the only one able to sway the decisions of head captain Yamamoto. This also doesn't have to do with power or her being stronger than him, just that he has great respect for her, or he thinks that she has a better way of thinking than himself, which makes sense due to the fact she was the only one able to see through or somewhat see through Kyoka while being in it, and even Aizen praises her for this. In the Thousand-Year Blood War, it's revealed that she was the first Kenpachi and was a part of the original Gote 13, who are also known to be the ultimate group of captains. The name Kenpachi is only given to those who are the strongest, which makes sense. When we look at the history of the Kenpachi in the Safoi novel, the 7th Kenpachi Kurashiki, someone who was so strong that he was banned from using his Bankai in the Serete, and he was the only one who was asked to join the Zero Squad division based on his power alone. There's the 8th Kenpachi Azashiro, who was stated to be the strongest Shinigami and could battle the current 11th Kenpachi and possibly beat him. Now Zaraki wasn't as strong as he is in the Thousand-Year Blood War, but he was rivaling Szayelaporro's brother, who had the same Reiatsu as Vassal Lord Ichigo. After thinking about it, I thought it was referring to Unohana calling herself the strongest, but she never really claims this out loud, but she monologues this statement to herself. So I'm assuming it's just about what everyone thought about her, since she's also known as the most notorious criminal during the ages where everyone was basically a criminal. To get to her battles, or battle I should say, she only has one battle, and it's against Zaraki. Zaraki at this point in the story is above characters like Yami, who was the strongest Espada, at least when it comes to power. If we include the novels, he should be above characters like Vasto Ichigo and the 7th and 8th Kenpachi, along with all the Espada. Maybe you could say base Aizen, or on the level of base Aizen. Zaraki in the first invasion is the only one who was able to actually win against not one, but 3 Quincy's at the same time. He gets the same reaction as Ichigo does when he arrives in the Soul Society. Zaraki is also on the 5 war potential list. Unohana is far above this Zaraki. Zaraki didn't start the battle with his eye patch on, he starts the battle with it already off. Unohana even commends him for this. She easily kills this Zaraki without trying, in base. In fact, she's rivaling Zaraki without him restricting himself. People think Unohana is far below Zaraki when he isn't restricting himself, which is wrong. They're close enough to the point Zaraki felt fear for the first time. He admired Unohana so much he named his lieutenant after her when he found Yachiru. He also wanted to fight just like Unohana, so I doubt the power gap is a significant amount. Unohana makes a statement claiming that she was the strongest until she met Zaraki, which makes sense when you consider the history books claiming that she was the strongest in history, or just the overall narrative just telling the reader she's the strongest until she met him. What people use to downplay this statement is that she's excluding Yamamoto since he's dead. This interpretation of the statement isn't right because the way Unohana phrases it makes it seem that she had this mindset even back then. So when she says she was the strongest, she's probably including people like Yamamoto. I don't want to get into Yamamoto versus Unohana. I'll do that in another video, and the answer should be blatantly obvious. I'm just going to say these few things and get back to Unohana. When I say Unohana is stronger than Yamamoto, I'm not saying that if Bankai Yamamoto and base Unohana clashed, that she'd overpower him. I'm saying that if they had an arm wrestling match, Unohana would probably win, or if they were to spar using kendo sticks, she'd probably win. It takes more than just being stronger to win a battle, especially against someone like Yamamoto. He literally has the strongest Zanpakuto in history, but other than that, that's it. That's all I'm going to say about Unohana versus Yamamoto. I'll make a whole other video about that some other time. Let's discuss Unohana's Bankai. Besides giving her a stat buff, she gains increased range. As we see when she activates Bankai, she changes the area into a pool of blood. She's able to use this blood to throw powerful slashes at her opponent, or use a blood vortex as an offensive rush or defensive wall to protect herself. She's able to consistently heal herself with her Bankai. She might be able to heal her opponent as well, since she killed Zaraki twice but didn't need to go up to him and heal his body. We don't necessarily know the limits to Unohana's healing capabilities. We do know it has limits, and she could heal herself as well as others from like death dealing or fatal wounds, as we see in the Kenpachi fight. Now we don't know if she could heal like lost limbs. We do know she can reattach it, but what about in Yamamoto's case where he sacrificed his arm to Aikido? Maybe you could say she couldn't bring his arm back because healing Kido can't bring back limbs sacrificed to Kido. We do know it's not on the level of Orihime's, which makes sense. Orihime's ability isn't healing, it's the power to reject space and time. But what's weird about this is we know Orihime can't bring back people from death, but Unohana does it to Kenpachi multiple times. Maybe Orihime was downplaying herself, or Kenpachi wasn't fully dead. It's crazy to think how fast Unohana was able to heal Zaraki. We literally don't even see one panel of her healing him. Even Zaraki didn't even notice he was being healed. If Unohana is able to do this, imagine how fast Karinji must be at healing. To get to some of the things people use to downplay Unohana, the earliest one, and the statement I don't see get brought up that much, is a statement she makes before heading to Central 46 in the Soul Society. Unohana herself says that she's not strong enough to stop any of the battles going on. You can look at it two different ways. One, Unohana was just downplaying herself or being humble, or it was early on in the series and Kubo didn't plan on having Unohana secretly be the strongest or the first Kenpachi. The second option is probably which makes the most sense, due to the fact Kubo outright admitting he doesn't always plan everything. He also might have forgotten as well. As we see with Shunsui, he's drawn Shunsui with both his eyes perfectly healed after he got shot in the eye. I'm pretty sure you can find some of these panels if you look hard enough. Maybe someone on Reddit posted some pictures of them. Jushiro and Yamamoto himself make similar statements about how no one is able to replace Yamamoto, and no Soul Reaper in 1,000 years has surpassed him. These statements basically put Unohana below Yamamoto. I'm completely fine with that, and I actually agree, but people would also use these statements to disprove Unohana's later statement about her being stronger, calling it a lie or some sort. This is where I disagree. People act like these two statements contradict each other and can't coexist in the story. Now, the only way they do contradict each other is if you equate being stronger to winning a fight, which is just wrong. Being stronger than someone doesn't always guarantee you the battle unless you are massively stronger than them, which doesn't really seem to be the case in this situation. I'll delve into it more once I do a Unohana versus Yamamoto video. I should also talk about Aizen and his whole role with Unohana. People like to put her above Aizen just based on their interaction in Central 46. They say Aizen was scared and that's the reason he ran away. Or they say he ran away. Now I love Unohana. She's my favorite character in Bleach. That being said, I've read this part 5 to 10 times and I just can't see it. People act like Unohana is just gonna undo her braided hair, unsheath her sword, and start beating up Aizen. Isane is the only one who tries to attack. On the other hand, people also use the fact he wasn't scared or the fact he wasn't worried about her at all to downplay her. Aizen isn't worried about Unohana, but for the wrong reasons people use. It's not due to power, it's due to her being dedicated to her role as a healer. She's literally the captain of the division that specializes in healing. She watches all the Vizards, and some of the captains get absolutely destroyed in their fight against Aizen, and is just sitting there healing. Or the fact that she told the tree guy in Hueco Mundo that she just wanted to heal the wounded. Isane was the only one who actually pursuing them, not Unohana. In the Thousand Year Blood War, the only reason she fights is because she's ordered to by head captain Shinsui. Unohana makes a statement about Zaraki being rivaled by Fullbring Arc Ichigo, Renji, and Byakuya. There are different translations of this statement. What I mean by this is, in the manga it says he's rivaled by these characters. In the anime sub, it says equal terms. And in the dub of the anime, it says bear arms with. The anime translations can be interpreted as now he's no longer limiting himself. He's now able to fight on equal terms with these characters or his comrades, or fight alongside these people now. The manga, on the other hand, is rather weird. If we go with the interpretation where Unohana is talking about Kenpachi finally rivaling these characters at that specific time in the series, it's a bit weird and messes with the power scaling of the series. This statement implies characters like pre-Soul King training Renji is blitzing and bullying Grimmy. At least the Grimmy before Zaraki is using his Shikai, which is just wrong. Now, what's weird about the characters shown in this panel is they all have one thing in common. They all get Soul King level training, which is happening during this battle between Unohana and Kenpachi. So Unohana could just be referring to these characters after their training. It's not like Unohana doesn't know where they are. She knows they're at the Soul Palace. Even Unohana herself was trained by a Zero Squad member in arts of healing. This interpretation makes even more sense when you realize the fact Kenpachi, Ichigo with his real Zanpakuto, and Aizen are all implied to be relative to each other in the manga and novels. Well, with all that, how strong is Unohana? And who can she beat? Well, if you think that Unohana's statement is comparing Fullbring Ichigo and unrestricted Kenpachi to being equal, Unohana should be around this Fullbring Ichigo. Now, she should be able to stomp the Espada all at the same time. She should be stronger than Vasto Ichigo, especially if you think Kenpachi before his fight with Unohana is around that level. On the other hand, if you think Unohana's statement is referring to Kenpachi being rivaled by Ichigo, Renji, and Byakuya after training, well then she should be able to do everything Kenpachi does in base or with his eye patch off. It's debatable if Unohana could take or fight Zaraki in Shikai with his eye patch on. It all depends if you think Shikai gives him a bigger stat boost or a bigger amp than the eye patch. If it doesn't, she could fight him at least in Bankai. If Shikai is a bigger amp, then she most likely doesn't do well against him. Her strength should surpass Yamamoto's, so she should be able to damage someone like Base Yuha. She should be above all the captains before Royal Guard training, except Yamamoto. They should be relative, with Unohana being weaker. If Yamamoto's a 10, she's like an 8 or 9, with the only stat she has above him is strength. They should be in the same tier at least. She should be able to beat characters like Aizen if it's just down to power. Maybe with Kyoka, Aizen could pull it off, but Aizen probably doesn't survive more than 2 to 3 killing blows from Unohana. I'll get to more of Unohana versus individual captains, like Unohana versus Shunsui, or Unohana versus like Byakuya or something in another video. But that's all for this video. Let me know if you guys think I missed or overlooked anything. If you guys think Bankai Ichigo from the Soul Society blitzes and one-shots Unohana, let me know down below. Thank you and have a rainy day.